Hello and welcome to another episode of the Course Creators Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Cordiner, and today we're going to get a little bit woo-woo. Yes, we are. We are going spiritual today. Now, for those of you who don't know, I actually have a gypsy background. Now, go and Google that if you don't know what a gypsy is, but my heritage has actually come from the gypsy world. And so I've always had a very, very spiritual side. It's part of who I am in terms of exactly what my soul is. And it's a part of me I often don't really share very much, but it's about to come out a little bit more. I've actually recently started a business called Hi Gypsy, which you'll hear lots more about down the line. But for me, I have found that through my life, the times where I have put my spiritual side to one side, whatever your beliefs are, there's a part of us who really should remain in touch with that inner being. It's staying in touch with our soul, knowing who we really are. What is it that we're doing? Now, as entrepreneurs and course creators, it's really important that we stay in touch with who we are at soul level. If we don't, we could find ourselves going off the pathway of what we're really meant to be doing. We can fall off that path of our destiny, particularly when we're distracted by exciting opportunities or when life gets tough and challenging and there's lots going on around us. I myself certainly have drifted off the path a few times. I've always been in the space of course creation, but sometimes I've gone off and focused on projects that weren't really filling me up at soul level. And I found myself stressed out, anxious, depressed, kind of feeling like there was this weird gap in my life, or feeling a little bit unclear as to what am I going to do next? What thing should I focus on next? And constantly asking myself, who am I really? So that I can go on and serve and help others in my zone of genius, in my area of flow. Now, there is no better way of doing this than working with somebody like my guest today. Today we have on the show a wonderful, wonderful woman, dear friend of mine, Anne Perry, who is a specialist in lots of things, but particularly in the space of numerology. Now, I have had the benefit of working with Anne. Anne has actually done a reading for me, and it was absolutely incredible. And Anne actually went back in our one-on-one session together and actually summarized some of the experiences I've been through in my life without me telling her they'd happened, knowing full well they'd happened, and was able to explain to me why particular periods of my life had gone certain ways. And it was incredible to kind of revisit some of those experiences as a result of her numerology report and reading, and see that there are planetary reasons behind the way different parts of our life go. And Anne's going to share with us today, what is it? What are those things? How can we tap into those? And how can we use the natural energies and the planetary alignments to help us align with ourselves? Anne Perry, it's absolutely amazing to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's just such a treat to be with you. Really excited.
It's really, really good. So Anne, first of all, I just really want to know, how did you find yourself getting into the space of being an expert numerologist?
Oh, wow. How long do you have? Actually, I was a Reiki master. I had a very active practice with clients coming to see me all the time. And I was looking for a very quick method of being able to get to know my clients quicker, more effectively on a deeper level. And so somebody brought me a book called The Life You Were Born to Live by Dan Millman. And that book completely woke me right up to the concept of numerology, even though Dan Millman, it technically is not a numerologist per se. And some of the techniques and methods that he shares in his book aren't exactly in alignment with what I believe. However, this book, I couldn't put it down because the description of the life path numbers was just so brilliant. So I started that way. I started seeing my clients. I knew something about their date of birth, so I could know what their lessons were. I could know what their hesitations were. I knew why some people would choose to heal and some people chose not to. I could tell what kind of a funky cycle they were in and when they were coming out of it, all those sorts of things. But ultimately, I think it was 2003 where I had gone through a pretty dark phase in my life. I guess I was depressed. I've never gone through a depression before, but I guess that's as close as I've ever been. And when I learned numerology, the first thing I wanted to do was to go back and revisit that time to say, what the heck was that all about, And the beautiful thing was that it was like a big, ugly red flag on my chart. And it showed me when I was going into this really crappy cycle and when I'd be coming out of it. And I couldn't help but think, had I known that going into it, I wouldn't have thought my life was in ruins. I would have recognized, I'm in a bit of a challenging cycle. It starts here, it'll be over here. And I would have sailed through it. but I didn't know that then. But I know it now. And this is what I love about numerology, is to be able to show people, review some other cycles. Like we did that in your reading, was to review some years before, to say, yeah, of course you were feeling that way. This is what was going on, and this is when it ended, and this is when the clouds cleared, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, and then also, that you were able to as well give me some pointers as to what the planetary alignments are going to be coming up and what that might mean for me in terms of my journey, which is again something else that just feels wonderful. I mean, us human beings innately love to feel some kind of we like to know how we can plan things. We like to feel some degree of control. And I think if we have an idea of what to expect when perhaps a troubling time comes along, well, if we expect that it's coming, we can deal with it much easier. If we see or know or have a hint that there are opportunities coming up, we may be more awake and open to those opportunities when they come, instead of them passing us by. Now, it's really interesting. A lot of people kind of look at this space and they say, oh, is this like star signs? Like, tell us.
Well, my business partner for 11 years is an astrologer. She's an amazing astrologer, Holly Poole, hollypoole.com. Check her out. She is awesome. And Holly and I were in business together, and she would do the astrology and I would do the numerology. And when we would do shows and whatnot, people would say, well, what should I take? Should I do the numerology reading or the astrology? And I'd say you honestly have to do both, really, if you want the full picture. Because what astrology can tell you, numerology generally doesn't. But what numerology can tell you, astrology doesn't necessarily address it. So you almost need to have both.
Amazing. And I always meet a lot of people, being a pretty woo-woo girl myself, I very much look into what are the planets doing? Where are we at? And some of my friends go, oh, Sarah, do you really believe in all that? And I'm like, dude, the moon can move an entire ocean across the entire globe. Now, if the moon can do that to a body of water that large, believe me, the moon and all of the other moons and planets can do exactly the same to the water within our bodies as well. So yes, I very much believe in it. It's not woo-woo, it is science, and that is exactly how it works. That is how the moon and the ocean work, my friends. Go and look at the encyclopedia. So look, one of the things I like about numerology is that there are many different facets to it. You've got predominantly, we start with these life paths, don't we? Can you tell us what are life paths? And can you give us an example of how someone will work their life path out, other than coming to obviously a specialist like you, one of your courses that you have available? Give us a couple of examples of what, one or two or three of the life paths look like, just to give people ideas as to, well, what does it mean when I have a life path? What can I expect to get from that?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so a life path number is something that you would have chosen prior to your incarnation. So before you incarnated, you would have sat down with a group of spirit guides. And these are guides who know you really well, right? They know what you know. They know what you don't know. They know what you're supposed to be learning. They know what you're avoiding learning, that sort of thing. And through that discussion that you would have had with them, you would have chosen all of the numbers that went into your date of birth, which ultimately create what's called the life path number. So the life path number is your big lesson number. It's the first of the 4 core numbers we look at in numerology. So it's the most intense of all 4 core numbers. So in my opinion, in order to calculate your life path number correctly, you're not just going to add the numbers straight across, because if you add all the numbers straight across, you're not celebrating or emphasizing the day of birth. And the day of birth is a core number, and it's significant. It holds the sub-lesson to the main lesson. The main lesson is your life path number. The day of birth is your sub-lesson to that. So we want to make sure that we eliminate that, especially for somebody who would have been born on, say, the 11th day or possibly the 22nd day, because those are master numbers and they hold huge intensity, right? So we need to acknowledge them. So adding the numbers straight across is going to get you your ultimate life path number, for example, 7, okay? But an example in point, my date of birth is March 25th of 1959, okay? So if I was to add all of those numbers across, 3 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 9, it comes up to 34, okay? And 3 and 4 equals 7. Now, that is the way a lot of people will tell you to do it, because they're trying to keep it really, really simple. But that's only going to crack the door open a little bit. You know, in my view, if you're going to come and talk to me about a reading or you know, your life path number, I want to blow the door open, right? I want to see what kind of a 7 are you, okay? So
in my case, does, by the way, that door is getting blown right open. I love
it. Yeah. So you got to blow the door open, right? So when I do it for me, it comes up as a 34/7. Well, that would mean that I'm here to learn sub lessons relating to the 3 and the 4. Well, the 3, for starters, the 3 is all about learning how to communicate. Clearly, I have no trouble communicating, right? The 4 is about stability, process, being on time, having a plan, structure, all. I got all that. So I could never connect the dots to that. So it's very important that we don't add the numbers straight across. What you are going to do is break the numbers down independently. So once again, March 25th, 1959. March is the 3rd month. We're going to bring that down as a 3. The 25th day, add 2 and 5 together, comes down as a 7. 1959, add 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 9, comes up to 24, and 2 and 4 equals 6. Okay, so now we're going to add the 3 from March to the 7 from the day of birth to the 6 from the year of birth, and that comes up as a 16/7. So why is, you might say, well, what the heck's the difference, Anna? 7 is a 7. True, 7 is my life path number. However, the 16/7 says I'm working through the sub lessons of the 1. I totally get that, which is all about independence, creativity, authenticity, originality, and on it goes. And the 6 is about learning, what am I responsible for and what am I not, you know? Man, I had some lessons to learn about that. So right away, I could identify with those 2 numbers. But bigger than that, Sarah, the 16 holds a karmic debt. You gotta know if you've got a karmic debt, because once again, that's an element you can work on, right?
Fantastic. So there are 9 life paths all in all, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. And just give us a couple of examples. Maybe pick a couple of numbers and say, what is it? What's a 2? What's a 3? What's a 5? What's a 9? Like, can you give us some ideas to the major themes?
Let's start with the 9, shall we?
I may or may not be a 9.
You're the best of the 9. Okay, so Sarah's life path number is a 9. And so that tells me that she's very much the humanitarian. Sarah is here to make a difference. She is here to leave a mark on the planet. What you do, Sarah, has to be meaningful. Like, you're not, I mean, you're a mogul when it comes to the course creation and whatnot. But I mean, I saw it. I took your program. I took the 30-day course creation program. And I mean, hell, was it midnight? You called me and addressed an issue that I was having. I was having a nervous breakdown, as everybody in the course was having their own little mini nervous breakdown. Like, that's what we do, right? But you thought enough and you cared enough to reach out to me. And I'll never forget that. But that's who you are. That's just who you are. So, you know, the 9 is related to being of service to humanity. It is the healer, and I don't like using the word healer because it disempowers everybody else, but you know, you're somebody who likes to find solutions to things and likes to help people to help themselves, right? Now, you can't disagree with that. You know it's true, right? Absolutely. And Sarah acts with heart. Her business acts with heart, right? That's your number 1 motivation is, and that's why you've been so successful, I feel, is the fact that you had your priorities straight. There are a lot of people, 8s in particular. The life path number of the 8 is notoriously has a struggle with money. Okay, they have a struggle with money because they don't have their priorities straight. They go after the money rather than going after being of service. How, you know, show me how I can be of service. Ask the universe, how can I be of service? Get in alignment with how you can be of service, and then the money just comes, right? But the 8s have a tendency to look for the money before they look for the service. And this is not a blanket statement. This is just an observation, right? Okay, let's take a look at a 2 life path number versus a 1 life path number. So the 1 life path number is all about number 1, right? They're all about themselves. Not to say that they don't care about anybody else, but their number 1 focus is on, how am I going to get ahead? What am I going to do? It's all about originality, it's creativity, it's, you know, it's leadership, that sort of thing. Now that's the 1. Somebody who is a 2 is all about themselves plus 1 other person. So they're partner driven. Okay, so the 2 is a very sensitive, intuitive person, softer energy, doesn't have the same kind of drive and ambition and competitiveness that the 1 has. Very soft, gentler energy, but they're very much about partnership. Whereas, so they like to be collaborators and team players, whereas the 1s are like, I don't care. You know, it doesn't matter if I've got a partner or not, I'm just going to do it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. It's really, really interesting, when you go through and you read all of those different descriptions, like I can pick out particular friends of mine or potential business partners and kind of go, are we going to flow? Are we going to work, or are we going to clash? Or
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
pretty incredible, particularly when you've got a friend or a loved one, a family member who, they might be going through a particular time. When you look at those life path numbers and get some idea of their numerology chart, it really is quite, wow, this is what they're going through right now. This is now who I need to be to help that person, or be with that person, or to, walk them through, because there will be change, the planets will move, and there will be something different coming next, right? And it just gives hope, doesn't it? It gives hope.
It does.
A sense of power. It gives you a feeling of control, and I can do something about this. And it's almost like, when you feel unwell and you're not quite sure what's wrong with you, there's almost not knowing what's caused it is really, really distressing. I used to work in a doctor's surgery, getting myself through university as a medical assistant, and I very much remember that people would be delighted when they got a diagnosis for something. And it's a really weird thing to say. It kind of sounds paradoxical. Yay, I'm so happy I've been diagnosed with this disease. And you think, well, why would you be delighted? But they're obviously not delighted they've been diagnosed with a disease. They're delighted to know what's causing their symptoms. They're delighted to know what the problem, what it is that's making that thing happen. And I find numerology very, very similar. It's like that diagnosis. It's like, now I know what's causing that. Now I know what's going to happen next. And it's very relieving. It's comforting and assuring.
Well, it's validating, really. I find it's validating. And you're absolutely right. When we know the life path number, so many reasons why we need to know people's life path numbers, but I mean, anytime I would ever work in the corporate world, the first thing I would want to do is find out somebody's life path number, because I have an 8 personality. It's a big personality. And I know that about myself. I know that I can be, sometimes a little too witty. Sometimes I can be a little sarcastic. And for example, the 2s don't resonate well with that, right? So I have to kind of tone down my bravado in the company of somebody who's a 2. Likewise, if I'm in the company of somebody who's a 1 or a 5, those are head case numbers. 1s, 5s, and 7s, we're head case numbers, right? So we're thinkers. We're not feelers, we're thinkers. So I know how to manage myself in that environment a little bit better. I know how to manage the people around me a little bit better.
Wonderful. Now you've mentioned karmic debt. Now, when we did my particular reading, I had a lot of karmic debt in my charts from whatever naughty things I may have got up to in a past life.
You were a badass.
I definitely was a bad girl. And I'm in this life. I'm now repaying debts for whatever I did in my past life. And it's really interesting to know that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this whole karmic debt thing means? What is it?
Sure.
How do we know if we're in some, and what do we do? I mean, is it just like a punishment we have to suck up and live with, or what?
Well, it's understanding karmic debt. Now, not everybody has karmic debt. Let's get that out of the way. Just because it doesn't show up necessarily on your numerology chart does not mean to say you're exempt from karmic debt. We all have it. However, there are some karmic debts that will show up on the chart. There are 4 numbers. We've got the 13. It's called 13/4, 13/4, 1 and 3 equals 4, 13/4, 14/5, 16/7, and a 19/1. So that means that if you were born on the 13th day, the 14th day, the 16th day, or the 19th day, that's a quick indicator that we're dealing with an old soul, because that indicates a karmic debt. So you had to have had previous lifetimes with which to create that karmic debt. So that's one place we can see it. We can also see it in, that comes from, your name on your birth certificate might come up with a karmic debt. It can show up as a cycle. It can show up as an essence. It can show up all kinds of different places. But when it shows up in the core number, it's indicating that you are making up for bad behavior in a previous lifetime. So for example, somebody suffering, that's a poor word, someone experiencing the karmic debt of the 13/4. This is somebody who was very lazy in a previous lifetime. They didn't apply themselves. They took shortcuts. They took the easy way out. They sat back and let everybody else do all the work, and they got the credit for it, kind of thing. So this time around, they sometimes struggle with focus. Okay, the 1, the 3, and the 4. The 1 is all about them. The 3 is in relation to your ability to focus, and the 3 tends to be a bit of a scattered energy. So the 13/4 is somebody who really needs to work hard at shifting their focus away from an obstacle rather than getting stuck on the obstacle that's causing them not to be able to move forward, shift away from that and start focusing on the benefit. Show gratitude for the obstacle. Let's see if we can have a more positive attitude. That's the 13-4. The 14-5 is guilty of having abused their freedom in a previous lifetime. These are people who've lost everything in a previous lifetime. So in this lifetime, they have a tendency to be afraid of taking risks because they know what that feels like. Intuitively, in their cellular memory, they tap into that and like, ooh, I can't take a risk right now because what happens if I cause grief to my family like I did last time? So we break it down, 1, 4, and 5. The 1's about you. The 4 is about developing a plan, a step-by-step actionable plan. The 5 is about having the freedom that you want in a responsible fashion, okay? 16-7 is all about trust. So a person with 16-7 karmic debt usually stepped out on their relationships in their previous lifetime. So it causes them to face issues around trust in this lifetime. They may be completely, innocent, but for whatever reason, they're being judged, and people have a hard time trusting them. The 19-1, that was the leader in the previous lifetime, the hard-ass leader. This is somebody who really stomped on people like bugs to get ahead. And in this lifetime, they're intended to help people to help themselves, push them up the corporate ladder and watch them be successful. And that will become your success.
Absolutely, it's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, when you did my numerology chart for me, I could really kind of see how some of those frictions, some of those challenges have come from that result that came up. So it's it's very, very interesting stuff, and it can kind of help you ask yourself questions about, okay, well, again, who do I need to be? How do I need to serve? How does my business need to operate? What work should I be doing? What courses should I be creating? What content should I be putting together? How do I do my business? Is it going to be me personally, physically, hand in hand, being there for people? And those answers can give us clues there as to which way we should be doing what we're doing, as well as what we should be doing. So I think it's very, very powerful stuff for that course creator, that entrepreneur, that leader, that expert. We have a responsibility to do the right thing in the world, to share, to lead, and our numbers can really give us clues about the best way we should be executing it. So it's very, very cool stuff. Now, you've mentioned a little bit, obviously, about how this date of birth can reveal how our year is going to roll out. What we have to look forward to this year, next year. And I know you've given me a 3-year plan, actually, with hints as to what I might expect coming up, how my business might change as a result, my new business that's just launching as well, because of what's come up in those signs. What can people be, entrepreneurs, experts, what can we really be thinking about in terms of our date of birth, and what clues that can give us about sort of the upcoming 12 months?
It's one of my favorite topics. I think being course creators, one of the things that we need to understand is that we've got to get in the flow, right? I found through my own personal experience that the more I pushed, the worse it got, right? The more I was in flow with it and allowed things to just kind of come to me, the easier it went, okay? So understanding where we're at in our own personal cycle is really important. So it's what we call the epicycle. There's a 9-year cycle that we observe in numerology, where every January we get a new cup of whatever our personal year is. So for example, if you happen to be in a 1 personal year, that would stand to reason that you are going to get a full cup of 1 energy. So this is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual energy, enough to get the job done. The universe is going to support you. They're going to help you to plant some seeds and get something started. And whatever you start in a personal year of 1 will be influenced over the next 9 years, right? So if you wouldn't you want to know that you're in a personal year of 1? I mean, this is go time, right? This is the best time for course creators to know that, right? So you have to put your best foot forward, because the thing is, we only get a 1 personal year once in a 9-year cycle. Now, that does not mean to say that you can't start something new in any other year, because that would be ridiculous. But it does mean to say that I understand, if I'm in a 1 personal year, that this is the best year ever to start something new, okay? So each year starts in January. By the time we get to about September, October, we start losing the intensity of that year. And what happens is the intensity of the next coming year comes in, and we start feeling that shift. So in this case, we'd be shifting to the 2 energy. So there is a rhythm, and it's very important that we as course creators understand this rhythm, because we need to know that as we are putting ourselves out there in our personal year of 1, we're punching our way through, and we're going really hard, and we're working our butts off and day and night. That's great. But you need to understand that once you hit your 2 personal year, you're going to flatline a little bit because the universe is going to take away your energy, and it's done intentionally. So there's a bit of an ebb and tide. There's a flow to this, that if you understand it, you can take advantage of it and swim with the tide rather than against it. Okay. So the year of 1 is go, go, go. The year of 2, they're going to rein us back in. They're going to make us sit in our timeout chair. The year of 1 is all about you moving forward. The year of 2 is about you and one other person. So now it brings in partnership. It's not a drive just for your own, purpose. So you get the idea. There is a resource on my website, by the way, if anybody wants to go and check that out. We'll give you the link later, but there is a resource there that explains the epicycle in its entirety. But I just want you to know that understanding the personal year that you're in will understand what kind of energy you're going to have and how you apply it. So in a nutshell, the year of 1 is all about go time. The year of 2 is rest, restore, because in the year of 3, you're going forward again, okay? And it becomes more social. The year of 4, we're going to put some posts in the ground and build a foundation for ourselves. Another great year for course creators. And then in the year of 5, it's about expansion. See, every year builds upon the next, right? And then the year of 6 takes it back a notch and goes, oh gosh, I got to be responsible now to my family and my friends and whatnot. Year of 7, leave me alone. I want to be in my cave for a while because I have to think about my next move, because when I go to my year of 8, go time again, manifestation year. And last but not least, we go to our year of 9, which is going to be all about releasing, letting go, and making room for the new beginning cycle again. Okay. So you're probably wondering how to calculate this. Do you want me to offer that up?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Grab a pen and paper, my friends. Grab a pen and paper.
All right. It's a very simple process. The first thing you need to do to figure out what it is, what your personal year is, you first of all have to figure out what the universal year is. Okay. So 2020, we're going to add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 equals 4. So we know that 2020 is a 4 universal year. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your month of birth and reduce that to a single digit. And then you're going to take your day of birth and reduce that to a single digit. So let's say we have somebody who was born on December 23rd. Okay. We're going to take December and we're going to add, it's the 12th month. So we're going to add 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay. So circle the 3. Now we're going to add, for the 23rd day, we're going to add 2 and 3 together, comes to 5, circle the 5. And to that, we're going to add the 4 for the 4 universal year. So now we have 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 4 is 12. And 1 plus 2 equals 3. So we know this person is in a 3 universal year, personal year, pardon me. They're in a 3 personal year. Now, I want to point out that if your life path number happens to be the same as the personal year you're in, you're going to feel it more so. So for you, Sarah, the 9 personal year is going to be more intense for you than it will be for me because I'm a 7, right? So you're a 9 life path number. The 9 personal year is going to feel more intense for you. 7 personal year will feel more intense for me.
Amazing. Very, very fascinating. It's just, and you can just dig down and delve down into this so much. Now, Anne mentioned her website there, and there are going to be links in the show notes below. So go and check that out, including links to her amazing online courses. Now, last month, you actually came onto the Concept of Course program. That's my 30-day course creation group coaching program. And you've got some courses together. So congratulations, first of all, for your success. Secondly, there's a lot of people listening who are perhaps at that stage now of, right, I'm going to create my course, I'm going to do it, but they're at the starting line. And we all know how overwhelming day one of course creation is. As you mentioned yourself, there was a moment where you were just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn. And yes, I'm on the phone to you in the middle of the night to try and help you get through.
That's where to God, you're talking off a ledge.
I'm not going to be letting anyone get through this without finishing. So, can you tell us, you've been doing what you do for years, and you're an expert in the traditionally face-to-face or one-on-ones, that you've been doing via Zooms. What was this experience like for you creating kind of these online self-study programs?
Wow, it's been, there's no way I could have done it without you. I'd be lying if I said I could. I did have some courses launched on Thinkific, and all I had were crickets sitting there because I didn't really know how to automate them or do anything with them. So I'm very grateful that now that the ones that I actually had published up there are actually selling now, which is a good thing. They're converting really well. My lead magnets it's almost scary how well they're converting. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And I could not have done it without your guidance. Seriously, I throw it right back at you. It was fantastic. I think one of the things that I would suggest to get out of your head, I had an experience. It was November 2018. I have to tell you, I went on YouTube, I don't know, 6 years ago, and I went on kicking and screaming. My idea of a good time was not going on YouTube, right? That was not my thing. But I had left my ex-husband. I had moved from the city where I was dealing with one-on-one clients, live clients coming into an office. And I moved out to the country, and the Pollyanna and me, the very positive person that I am, I'm like, oh, well, there's a whole different, bunch of people out here. I'm sure that, it'll take a bit of time, but it'll be okay, and I'll just be serving them. Not so much. They did not get with the program, right? So I was kind of chased on YouTube. I won't go into all that. But when I went onto YouTube, my early videos and whatnot were kind of scary for me because I was so afraid of judgment. Oh my God. I was so afraid of being called out. I was so afraid of someone saying something nasty or whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a fraud. The imposter syndrome. You talk about all of that. Man, dear Lord, God in heaven. I went through all of it.
We can all relate to that.
We can all, yeah, honestly, we can. But I got a message, I got a download, okay, that came to me in November of 2018, and I need to share it with your group. And it said, don't you ever worry about what you don't know. Don't worry about letting anybody down or not meeting their expectations. Don't worry about not having all the information or not having a full education or, not being an expert in your field. Don't worry about it. Because energetically, people will only ever be guided to your courses and to your YouTube channels and whatever else you put out there because of what you already know and what you already have. They're not coming to look for you based on what they hope you're going to have in the future. Think about that. When was the last time you went looking for somebody hoping that they might know something in the future? And that's where anxiety lives, isn't it, Sarah? I mean, we project into the future and we're not living in the moment. We're projecting the future, and that's where anxiety is because this future doesn't exist, right? So we're wasting a whole bunch of time and energy out there. So live in the moment, stay present. Don't worry about what you don't know yet, because the ones that find you need what you already have. It was amazing. It completely blew the doors open on my business when I got that. And I hope that
I was going to ask you, what tips would you give to brand new course creators? And I think honestly, that's one of the best ones there, right there, is we procrastinate so much. I myself can say it too. I should have started creating my courses 10 years earlier than I did. But again, I was worried about that criticism, that judgment. Is anyone going to listen to me? Will it even sell? Will I get trolled? There's all these things that you kind of go, what if? And the only what if that's absolutely certain is what if you don't put your course together and you don't help anyone? I mean, the only way you can help anybody is if you create your course.
And how long are you going to ask them to wait for your expertise? There is somebody out there who needs what you have to offer. And the thing that I was so humbled by when I went on YouTube initially was the fact that there's no such thing as competition. Like, it completely blew my mind. There's no such thing as competition. There's tons of numerologists out there, but only the people who need to connect with me will connect with me. That's right. I don't have to worry about, the ones that would prefer to go to somebody else. I don't worry about that anymore. And I used to be really afraid of the competition. And the other thing was, and you can relate to this because you're the extreme giver when it comes to information, but I struggled with, well, if I give away all my information, who's going to buy a reading from me? Talk about small mind mentality, really. But the more we give, the more that comes, right? And that's our responsibility. The one thing I know to be true is that if we are occupying space on this planet, our responsibility is to raise the vibration of another human being every single day.
Absolutely. And karma is real, my friends. It is real.
Yes.
As somebody who has built my business on giving stuff away for free, I can guarantee you now, giving your stuff away and sharing freely will not only change your life and your business, it will change somebody else's life too. Okay. And it's just been absolutely amazing to have you here today. Thank you so much. And I really, really hope, like, by putting something that is not technically a course creation topic here on the Course Creators podcast, I really, really felt that it was very important for us to share your messages today because of the fact that learning this and understanding this, I genuinely believe and have experienced myself, really helps us as experts, entrepreneurs and course creators to be better at what we do and to be of service in a way that, again, grows us, grows our businesses and grows that impact that we leave on the planet. So thank you for sharing your knowledge today. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. And if you want to create your very own online courses too, just like Anne did, you can come on over to my Concept to Course 30-day course creation group coaching program. The next one starts soon, so do come on over to sarahcordiner.com/do it, and you too can have your own online courses out there changing people's lives just like Anne's. And don't forget, you can check out all of Anne's links in the links below. Until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.